Hi, Cliff Sewell, Magical Mindset Podcast. Just wanted to give you a bit of a headline is that on the podcast, we're going to have lots of exciting guests, and that's going to be coming to you on a weekly basis, but also on a very regular basis. It's going to be quite a lot of content of just me sat chatting to you, both in the studio, both out and about. Why am I doing that? Because achievement and mindset is consistency. It's every day. I want to just share my everyday thoughts, my ups, my downs, how I've learned, how I still learn, how I'm still moving forward. And I genuinely hope by sharing that content on a daily, weekly basis, you'll see the real Cliff Sewell, not just a guy in a studio with guests, but somebody who's living a life, who's taught himself that magical mindset. And I'm hoping just by those little snippets of bit of information, those individual podcasts, I'll be able to give you that bit of advice, that bit of inspiration, that bit of help for you to go and create your own magical mindset. Today, I'm going to talk about self-doubt. Now, you may wonder, why am I going to focus on something that sounds rather negative? But it's something I think we really need to acknowledge, understand, and talk about when it comes to a magical mindset, when it comes to taking control, when it comes to changing your life. So let me try and explain what I'm trying to say is we are where we are right now because of things that have happened or decisions you've taken or behaviors you've got. We have to accept that. We often don't want to accept it. We often want to blame everybody else. We want to blame society. We want to blame the economy. We want to blame whatever it is. But to start any change, to start any development, to start any growth in your own life, you have to, first of all, accept you are where you are because of what's gone on and decisions you've made. And it could be a whole range of things. It could be very average things. It could be really catastrophic things in your life. I accept bad things happen. But you come across my podcast, the Magical Mindset Podcast, and lots of other motivational self-development content across the internet, YouTube, podcasts, and all those things. And I love it. That's almost my social time. I love taking in as much information as I can because I find it really inspiring because I learned so much. But often when I'm looking at these things, I think we miss the point somewhere along the line of why people can't go from right where they are right today and make that change and really drive change and create success, happiness, growth, all those things. And because you will get to a moment one day and you'll think, right, that's enough. I'm going to change. I'm going to make a big change in my life. And then there's a whole load of content out there about goal setting, about journaling, about manifestation, about meditation, all absolutely critical in developing a growth plan for yourself. And as we go through, and there'll be far more content within the Magical Mindset as we go forwards about those individual things. But what really strikes me is a lot of people start a plan. They'll start a growth plan. They'll get that mindset of, I'm going to change. Life's going to get better. I'm going to get better. And then it doesn't work. And then often we come back to, and I hear, well, that doesn't work, or manifestation, load of bloody rubbish, or I can't meditate, I can't do this. And actually, they all do work. There are many examples of where meditation works, manifestation works, journaling works, goal setting works. There's lots and lots of examples. And in the real world, there only has to be one example of where it worked for one person to prove that it works, if that makes any sense. But then I come back to, well, why doesn't it work for everybody? Why do people have real challenge? Where does it go wrong? And then I look at that and I take a lot of content in, but then I look at my life and I look at how have I got to where I've got to? How have I got to where I'm going? How have I got to sat here, my own podcast? Here we are, delivering content that I am truly inspired to give. And people may think, well, it's all right for you, Cliff. You've got your own podcast. You've got the time to do it. You've got this, you're fixed. Let me tell you now, and I will repeat over and over again, I'm not fixed. And that is one of the key things I talk about. Nobody's ever fixed. It is a constant hourly, daily, minute, monthly process. You've got to keep working at it. And the biggest white elephant in the room that always comes and catches us out is self-doubt. Now, people may call it imposter syndrome, but I call it self-doubt. So I've suffered with that lots, pretty much all my life. And I still do. Again, I go back to a lot of content I see out there, and there are certain people out there I think are fabulous podcasters, fabulous motivators, but they often give the impression that everything's perfect, everything's right, they've got it fixed, and whatever. And I can imagine some people looking and going, "That's all right for you, but I'm not." But I'm telling you now, I want to inspire, I want to motivate, I want to engage with people who watch my content, listen to my content. But never ever do I want to give the impression that I'm completely fixed. And that's not from a negative point of view, that's from a reality point of view, because growth, motivation, inspiration, change, success is all about reality as well. But reality to a certain point. Where you are right now is where you are right now. But you want to change, and then you've got to drive change, and you've got to put things in place to create change. And that's not easy. But the key thing you have to do right at the start is change how you think about who you are, not about the economy, not about your past partner, not about all the bad things that have happened to you. What you got to do is grasp it right there and then and go, right, I can't change next week and I can't change last week, but I can change right now. And you can't change your bank account right now. You can't change your relationships right now. You can't change most things right now. But what you can change right now, but it's not easy, is how you see yourself, how you think about yourself. And if you ever take a moment, go and try and do it today. I ask you, have a think about what you say to yourself when you're not really saying anything. What on earth am I on about? What's that self-chat, that quiet person thing in your brain that talks to you about you? Because you will say to yourself, I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to get a new partner. I'm going to get out of debt. And you say that to yourself. And then that little subconscious person says to you, no, you're not. You're a failure. No, you're not. Look at where you are today. How on earth can you possibly achieve? You're single. Your last partner left you. How are you going to get a new partner? And it just reminds you and reminds you and reminds you of the past. If you want to change, what you have to do is work really hard at saying, right, I'm now going to change that voice. I'm going to change the voice in my brain that says to me, that imposter syndrome, self-doubt. So what am I talking about is that you have to draw a line somewhere, grasp it, and then start through meditation, through manifestation, through these things, reprogramming what you think of yourself, what you say to yourself in those quiet moments. So if you want to be successful, whatever that might be, you've got to, unfortunately, take some time and go, what does success look like? What does happiness look like? Or another one, I don't want to be single anymore. I want a new partner. Right. Well, what does not being single look like? And what does a new partner look like? And what happiness does that bring you? But then you've got that, but then you have to then go, right, if I'm successful, or I'm going to be an amazing new partner to somebody else, or I'm going to be great in my new job, what you then have to do is go back to your brain and go, right, I'm now going to start thinking, talking, acting like that person now. Because people want the outside world to change who you are internally today. You can't. And the only way you'll change your outside results is by changing your internal views first. So what you've got to do is change how you think of yourself. So if you want a great job, go away and think about how you would think, how you would talk, how you would walk, how you would get up every day if you were already that person. You want a new partnership. You want a new relationship. Right. How will you act, talk, think, walk, dress every day? What will you do? Who will you be to be that person? Because that's what you have to do. And I think that often gets missed in a lot of content that's out there because it's not easy and it's really weird because you say, what, you want me to think like something that's not already there? Yes, plain and simple as that. That's what I'm saying. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of my life and how I did that. So let's talk first of all, and I'm very open about this. You can see it in the book. You can see many of my podcasts. I had a very, very serious negative relationship with alcohol. I was an alcoholic. I got to a point when I realized that couldn't continue. If that had continued, the results were going to be catastrophic. I went to AA meetings that were awful for me. I'm no way am I criticizing AA here. It just didn't work for me. I meet many people who it doesn't work for, solely because of the reason I'm going to talk about now. But what I did every day, I thought I need to stop drinking. So I would, and I'm sure lots of people who drink, who have got a drink problem, will probably have this same thing. You will go out drinking and then you'll get home that night, that afternoon, and you'll be drinking, you'll be drunk, or you'll have had a drink, and you'll think, that's it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to keep ruining my life. And at that moment, you are absolutely convinced you're not going to do it again. You wake up the next day, and what happens is the memory of you saying you're not going to do it is then overwritten or over by your chatter inside your head saying, yeah, I know you said you're not going to not drink, but you are a drinker. You are a drunk. You do need drink. You are an alcoholic. But there's nobody else telling you that. It's just you telling you that. And the hardest thing I had to do to get sober wasn't about AA meetings. It's taking in a lot of content and understanding. But the hardest thing I had to do, but when I say hardest, it then became the easiest thing, is that every day I really worked hard at changing how I saw myself. And I stopped seeing myself as a drunk. I stopped telling myself I was. I know 48 hours earlier, I was in the pub again, but I refused to use that as my vision for tomorrow. I said, no, I'm not a drunk anymore. I'm sober. And I'm going to stay sober. And I'm going to think sober. And I'm going to talk sober. I'm going to live sober. I'm going to walk sober. I'm going to enjoy being sober because actually that day I've not had a drink. It's lunchtime and I've not had a drink, so I'm sober. And that's how I got sober, by just constantly reminding myself, telling myself, creating a story that factually for the outside world was not true. Because people say, well, you are a drunk, you were drinking 2 days ago, but I'm not now. So I created a caricature, if you want to call it, or a vision of myself that then became the new person. And as every day went by, I thought of myself as a sober person. I thought of myself as somebody who could do more. I found more time. It wasn't easy. I don't ever want to give the impression it was easy. It wasn't. But I still think about drinking today. But the really interesting thing is, whenever I think about drinking, I don't go for a drink because my brain is now so programmed that it goes, well, why would you go for a drink? You're a sober person. I'm on my next thought. And then another example is, well, it's all right for you, Cliff, blah, blah, blah. Well, you've got your podcast now. Right, let's be real here. When I ran recruitment businesses for many, many years, and I was very successful in many and really, really unsuccessful in others. But I knew I had something inside me to do this. I love speaking. I love speaking, inspirational, motivational, life change mindset. I love it. I know a lot of people, the thought of standing up in front of an audience of 1 or 1,000 is a nightmare. For me, it literally lights me up. It's better than any drink. It is an emotion I can't take. I love it. I love doing this. I love the podcast environment. I meet some amazing guests. I'll do research on the guest who's coming in, but there's no notes. There's no set questions. It's just a sit down and a conversation, and we love the conversations. But people say, that's okay. But remember, when I started speaking, I'd never done a speaking gig. When I started the podcast, I didn't have any viewers. I had no subscribers. I had nothing. So I wasn't starting from anywhere. I was starting from absolute ground zero, nothing. But I told myself I could do it. I knew inside it was there in me. That was why I was here, and I was going to do it. There are still lots of people who tell me not to. There are still lots of people who say, what are you doing? But I know inside me it's what I should be doing. I know inside me it literally lights my life up. So I got rid of the self-doubt. I just kept going. I kept turning up every day. I kept, like you do sober, you got to turn up every day. Like you do building a recruitment business, turning up every day. Building a podcast, turn up every day. You do the interviews, you do the content, you put it out there. And guess what? It works because the universe will allow it to work for you as long as you are on the right track. And as long as you believe and as long as you overcome that self-doubt, you are always going to have. The more you work on it, the more it goes away. The more you work on yourself, the more it goes away. Thank you for listening to the Magical Mindset Podcast. Please subscribe, leave a review, share around your network. I'm Cliff Sewell. See you next time.